I was tasting cake samples at the Belle of X date when Chase's text arrived. Overseas markets imploding. Can't get away. Postponement. I told myself dynasty marriages require sacrifice. I flew 6 hours to surprise him and instead found him in the corner office with a girl half-hitched on his lap. Both of them were yelling at a shooter on the widescreen. Because the floor was empty, they hadn't even shut the door. The girl tilted her head. Chase, you're really pushing the wedding back. Obviously, Serena's glued to me 24/7 as it is. The thought of actually marrying her makes me claustrophobic. This excuse buys me time and more of you. But will Vance agree? She's desperate to become Kingsley. She'll swallow it. The only pity is I can't give you the big white production you deserve. He sniped an enemy, flicked a kiss to her cheek, and she twisted all the way around, arms lacing his neck, mouth finding his. The wet, unmistakable sound started. The phone lay face down on the desk. I pivoted, murmured to the assistant who escorted me up, "Kindly forget you ever saw me. Thank you." A dynastic marriage is a dynastic marriage. Why lodge myself inside a heart that has no room for me? Adrian, ask Chase's brother if he happens to need a wife. Before we continue, subscribe and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. Now what? You just landed and you're already at war. Not over the phone. I'll brief you when I'm back. But first sound out Grant. I heard footsteps, a door shut. Then my brother's voice again, stripped of banter. You're serious? Grant's army. Once he signs, the contract is ironclad. No exit clauses. I won't need one. My gown is finished. Mom's pattern. I'll only wear it once. Silence stretched until he answered low and even. May I ask why the sudden switch? Ever since Mom's funeral, you hovered over Chase like a ghost. The clouds finally part. The dates are set and you bolt. Explain. I brushed away tears. The Atlantic wind had already dried. Because I'm exhausted. Maybe the fatigue in my voice cauterized further questions. I'll reach out to Grant. He could be on a blackout mission. No guarantees. A soft hum was all I could manage. Chase and I realized, were a book whose final chapter had just ended. A few days later, the couturier WhatsApped that the vintage wedding gown was ready for its first fitting. With an empty afternoon, I drove over. When the silk settled over my shoulders, Mom felt abruptly alive in the mirror. The dress was a recut of the one she'd worn when she married Dad. She had been the Vance Atelier's chief designer, and every childhood bedtime ended with, "When my little Serena marries, I'll sketch the loveliest gown this family has ever seen." She produced dozens of drafts, yet I chose the gown that had promised her her own forever. I wanted to walk down the aisle wrapped in that same promise, wearing her love toward a man who loved me back. But senior year, a drunk driver erased her before she could see the sketch become silk. And Dad followed her into darkness 6 months later. I traced the Chantilly edging and whispered to my reflection, "Serena, you will be happy somehow. Vance your phone." The assistant's voice severed the spell. Chase's impatience crackled through before I could speak. "How did you end up at the atelier? I told you the wedding's canceled, date suspended." I scanned the fitting room. The designer waggled her screen in apology. She'd posted a sneak peek and tagged him, unaware of the postponement. This appointment was booked months ago. I was only checking seams. Return it. Ceremony's off. Photos leak and people will assume we're still on. Optics nightmare. He paused, then iced the line. "If you're determined to become my wife, start acting like it. Prioritize me. Keep pushing and I'll regret letting our lawyers draft this merger in the first place. If the families didn't need Vance shares locked up, nothing on earth would have made me propose. You happen to be convenient. Try remembering that." Eyes shut, I exhaled slowly. "Chase, I think I forgot to mention I'm not actually." "Save it. I'm informing Kingsley, and Adrian that the marriage is deferred. Date TBD. Keep throwing tantrums and the next announcement will be a cancellation. Maybe by the time I'm back, you'll have grown up." The line died. He'd hung up mid-breath, a habit so familiar it shouldn't hurt, yet still managed. Between his last syllables, I'd caught a distantly purred complaint. "Chase, have you asked her yet? Why'd she post that photo? The girl from the office." Apparently, the overseas division had imported something more important than me. I set the phone down, laughter strangling itself in my throat. Once Chase and I had been a love story. After Mom's funeral, Dad collapsed. Adrian left Wharton to study the board, and grief swallowed the house. No one noticed me detaching, sleepless, gradeless, wordless. Chase, childhood friend turned campus confidant, clocked the cracks. He brought coffee, drove me to the ocean, read fairy tales aloud at 2 a.m. Until his voice sank to a lullaby, I surfaced only to find him gone, replaced by a stranger whose eyes glazed whenever I appeared. Maybe when my devotion slipped from gratitude to need. Maybe when buddies teased that I'd been raised as his spare bride. Maybe when rumor confirmed the Vance-Kingsley alliance. However it began, tenderness calcified into annoyance, then contempt. I followed, apologized, twisted myself into prettier knots while he sprinted farther. 2 old money houses, 1 practical merger. Why did he keep treating me like a trap? I stared at the woman in vintage silk who still believed in fairy tales. And for the first time I pitied her. 3. When I got home, my brother was dozing on the couch, eyes closed. The moment my footsteps reached him, he opened his eyes and looked me over. Did anyone make you feel small? I hadn't felt like crying until those words of concern hit me. He straightened, patted the cushion beside him, and signaled for me to sit. This afternoon Chase called. He said he's already canceled the wedding. And if you still insisted, he'd marry you but never love you. The corners of Adrian's mouth curled, his eyes ice cold. If Grant hadn't rung me first, agreeing to marry you and telling me to keep it from Chase, do you think I'd have let your fiancé strut around like that? Grant agreed. Yes. He said he'd speak to Kingsley. The wedding proceeds, only the groom changes. We'll keep it quiet until he flies back. Although I was the one who asked to switch grooms, I had no real assurance Grant would say yes. Unlike Chase, born into velvet and flash, Grant grew up quiet and self-directed. The Kingsley household is tangled. His parents entered a dynastic marriage, then tolerated each other for the sake of their separate empires. Afterward, his father still chased every skirt and ignored the family ledger. Old Kingsley, deciding his son was a lost cause, pinned the dynasty's hopes on the grandson, so Grant was raised at the patriarch's knee. Chase arrived years later after their father finally calmed down and the couple's relations warmed. As a result, Grant never grew close to his parents while Mom and Dad doted on the baby of the family. When the idea of a dynastic marriage first surfaced, Adrian had wanted Grant as the groom, not just because the 2 men were college buddies. He respected the way Grant, after graduation, walked away from the cushy executive track Kingsley had mapped out and enlisted to serve. The old man thrashed him for it, but Grant never flinched, and Adrian admired that steel. I refused. An alliance was cold enough. I still had to wake up beside the man every day, so I picked the face I already knew. Inside the Kingsley camp, the parents clearly preferred Chase as my match. For years my pursuit of Chase had been public, and if they wanted him to inherit one day, the Aries of Vance would be the shrewdest accessory. That was why Chase, furious as he was, could only ask for a postponement, not a full cancellation. Thanks to Grant, the family raised no objection when Chase requested the postponement. Consequently, the overseas division headache that had supposedly required his presence dissolved overnight. Chase flew home without telling me. I heard it from a mutual friend. He was chasing a girl in broad daylight, Autumn, his first love, the white moonlight of his teenage years. Back then, her family's crash had severed their contact. This time, while Chase was ostensibly taking care of overseas operations, they met again abroad. He pursued her hard, installed her as his personal assistant, ushered her into every VIP circle, and stepped out with her daily. Rumor says he's planning a blowout birthday gala for her, ordering friends to keep it secret so the surprise lands like thunder. Barely a month in, every junior socialite in Eastbridge knows the second Kingsley son has found the girl he lost at 18. My position as the official fiancé has never looked more awkward. My friend fumed while recounting it. Postponing the ceremony is one thing, but flaunting a new romance is a slap to my face and a neon announcement that the Kingsley dance pack disgusts him. Yet, because I know the groom has already been swapped, none of it stings. Lately, I've camped in Adrian's office researching Grant's tastes. After all, I'm planning a lifetime, not a weekend. I never joked about marriage. I once loved Chase. And yes, he'd been good to me. Before the contract, when I was merely the kid sister of the circle, he'd take me everywhere because my parents were gone. Most heirs around us had no succession weight, so plenty were playboys. Whenever one moved in on me, Chase blocked him, afraid I'd be a passing trophy. If anyone in his clique rubbed me the wrong way, one word from me, and that person vanished from his contact list. Maybe that steady shielding fooled me into believing he loved me back. When the Kingsleys floated the dynastic marriage balloon, I begged Adrian to fetch it for me. Walking away hurts, but I'm learning to set the weight down. Mom once told me, "Don't marry the man who treats you well. Marry the man who is good in his bones." So Mom, I'm letting go of the boy who is kind to me and choosing the one who carries duty like a second skin. 5 Chase's headlines have driven me into hiding. I refused to parade around wearing pity. Adrian lost patience, declaring I looked half dead and ordering me to snap out of it. I argued that Eat Sleep Dream movie sketch cartoons felt like heaven. He flicked a glance over me. "Your opinion doesn't count. You represent the Vance name. Get out there and show the world you're in shape." So, he booted me to a debutante ball the Xaviers were throwing for their youngest. I'm convinced he just wanted a night off and shoved me into service. Young faces filled the room. After handing over my gift and murmuring, "Congratulations," I claimed a corner chair. Dallas isn't my element, and since the Kingsleys are related to the Xaviers by marriage, Chase would inevitably show. We hadn't spoken since his threatening cancellation call, and I had zero wish for a reunion. Curious stares began to needle me. I glanced up and saw the reason. Chase walked in with his arm draped over Autumn's shoulders. The sight ignited every gossip fuse. The Aries arrives solo. The groom arrives attached. Speculation sizzled. Were the Kingsleys about to jilt the Vances? No wonder the engagement announcement was followed by silence. Chase, reading the room, introduced Autumn to the hosts loud enough for everyone to hear. "Mr. and Mrs. Xavier, this is Autumn, my girlfriend." "Nice to meet you, dear," they answered, diplomatic smiles locked in place. The parents exchanged a look, then murmured, "Such a pretty girl. Come visit with Chase anytime." I watched him circulate. Autumn stayed at his elbow, radiant, their glances trading electricity, his fingers giving her hand intimate squeezes. A perfect snapshot. If only the man labeled taken weren't still wearing my engagement tag. Some people, however, enjoy sharpening knives. "Hello, Vance." I lifted my gaze. Never seen her before in my life. I kept my head down. I still had 3 moves left in Candy Crush, but one stubborn ice block refused to shatter. I wasn't in the mood to humor a stranger. "I'm Autumn, Chase's girlfriend." Final move. A bomb had just spawned beside the ice. I was about to swipe when a hand darted in and blocked my screen. Naturally, I mistapped. Level failed. Annoyed, I lifted my gaze and met her eyes. "So I'd like to talk." "No need. 1, I'm not his wife yet, only a fiancé by dynastic contract, so don't waste energy imagining me as your rival. 2, you're merely his girlfriend, and who knows how soon that becomes ex-girlfriend. Our orbits don't intersect and I'd like to keep it that way." The bluntness startled her. The smile froze at the corner of her mouth. "Vance, I honestly have something to discuss. This isn't the place. Let's move somewhere private." She glanced at the guests around us, leaned in and whispered, "If you ever want Chase to look your way again." I arched an eyebrow. What game was this? I stood and led her onto the balcony. The lights were low. Even the curious would see nothing. "Speak. What do you want?" Autumn surveyed the shadows, then stepped closer. "I hear your brother Adrian runs Vance and dotes on you. That gives you pull, right?" I retreated half a step and motioned for her to continue. "Truth is, I don't love Chase. But my family is on the brink of bankruptcy, and we need capital. The amount is pocket change to Vance. Bail my father out and I'll walk away from Chase. The Kingsley coffers are deep too. Why not ask Chase directly?" I tried. These months at his side taught me he has zero authority. The big decisions all land on Kingsley's desk. Kingsley dislikes Chase. He'd never inject a cent for me. "You're supposed to be crazy about Chase. Rumor says you proposed this dynastic marriage yourself. If you agree, I'll convince Chase to marry you on the original date. Then I'll vanish overseas for good." I almost laughed. With Chase eating out of her hand, She was still willing to drop him and assumed I was desperate enough to pay for the privilege. Then the two of them could gallivant abroad while he came home with a head full of white moonlight memories and married me. Did I look like a prize idiot? Was there no cure for terminal love sickness? Autumn. Sorry, I don't invest in guaranteed losses. Good evening. I smoothed my skirt and turned to leave. Autumn's expression flipped. She lunged and grabbed my wrist. Reflex took over. I flung her off. She yelped, stumbled backward and crashed to the tiles. The glass in her hand toppled, red wine gushing down her white gown. Before I could react, someone yanked me aside. I caught my balance and saw Chase cradling Autumn, helping her up, folding her into his arms. He scowled at me. Serena, what the hell? If you've got grievances, aim them at me. Leave other people out of it. So the beloved Mason without consequence, while the unloved are guilty by existence. Autumn nestled against him, face a picture of panic. Yet her eyes sparkled with triumph. Softly she said, Chase, let go. I'm all dirty. Stay right there. Let certain delusional women see there's no room in my heart. Even if family pressure drags me to the altar, it'll be an empty show, a marriage in name only. So plan B was to cling to Chase. After all, he was the Kingsley's second son apparent once Grant stepped back, killing the dynastic marriage, and Autumn might still land the crown, bankrupt family or not. Too bad Chase hadn't called the engagement off, only postponed. If he truly meant to fight for her, the announcement would have been a cancellation, not a delay. Perhaps sensing curious stares from inside, Mr. and Xavier were already glancing this way. Chase lowered his voice, irritation coating every syllable. Serena, stop the drama and go home. Next time I call Adrian, it won't be to postpone. It'll be to cancel. The Vance-Kingsley merger is rolling. The dynastic marriage is sealed. You love me. You know how rejection stings. You don't want me miserable, right? I finally found Autumn again. Relax. Chase is still in your future. Autumn won't be able to stay beside me openly for long. Once we're married, for your sake, I'll send her abroad. Visit a few months a year. Her existence won't threaten you. This whole time I've stayed silent so you could think it through. You love me. She and I love each other. That's the best arrangement for all three of us. I could scarcely believe it. Decades into the new century and someone still dreamed of maintaining a harem. Slap the word true love on it and cheating became noble. If it were real love, why not fight? Even if Mr. Kingsley disapproved, he could abandon fortune and elope instead. While engaged to me, he expected my affection to bless their affair. Did I look like a saint? First I felt angry. Soon I merely felt ridiculous. Truly, they were made for each other. Both scheming, both convinced I was a fool. My new creed, respect others' fates, abandon the urge to save them. I wouldn't meddle, but I did need to clarify one thing. Chase, I never got the chance to tell you. I didn't disagree with postponing. I intend to cancel. I spun on my heel. Another second of their presence felt like toxic waste. Unfortunately, disinterest wasn't mutual. Chase caught my arm in a vice-like grip. What did you say? Cancel. I told Adrian it was only postponed. Are you throwing another tantrum to force an earlier wedding? Forget it. The only reason I agreed to marry you is grandfather's pressure. Otherwise, you'd never set foot in the Kingsley family. Chase, are you insane? You're hurting me. Chase, let her go, Autumn pleaded, probably realizing how ugly this looked at the Xavier dinner. She's just talking out of anger. Everyone in Eastbridge knows the Vance-Kingsley alliance is imminent. Chase ignored her and me, eyes locked on my face as though waiting for a promise. I stared back, no longer struggling. 7. Just as the three of us petrified into a tableau, a low, resonant voice sounded behind me. What's going on? Haven't seen you in years and you've grown so impressive. You're bullying little girls. We both turned toward the voice. The man striding in had sharp, heroic brows and a face carved from granite. A second look revealed a faint resemblance to Chase. Grant, you're back. I thought you were still deployed. I took a hit a while ago and decided to cash out. Mom and Dad didn't say anything. How do you know I was here? You come looking for me? I didn't tell them, only mentioned it to Kingsley. And I'm here to take your future sister-in-law home. Grant stepped forward and clamped his fingers around Chase's wrist. Pain flared and Chase released me. Instinctively, I moved behind Grant. Maybe the phrase sister-in-law wrapped me in sudden safety. Or maybe the way he planted himself between us felt like a shield. Chase didn't even notice how close we'd edged. He only frowned. Sister-in-law? Since when do you have a girlfriend? He pointed at me. Grant, let me introduce. This is Serena, the Vansaries, the woman I'm about to contract a dynastic marriage with. Grant flicked his gaze my way. I answered with a helpless smile. I had no script for Chase's act. 5 minutes ago, he'd had Autumn pressed to his side, announcing her as his girlfriend. Now, in front of his brother, he was acting possessive of me. You sure she's still your match? Grant asked mildly. Word is you found true love and got cold feet. No, I just don't want to rush. We postponed the ceremony. That's all. Postponed? Grant shrugged. Then consider it cancelled. The Vance-Kingsley merger is common knowledge. The Vances have only one daughter. The Kingsleys, however, have more than one son. I spoke with Kingsley and Adrian before I flew back. Grant continued. Since your heart's elsewhere, and since I've admired Vance for years, the engagement now passes to me. He rested a light hand on my head, the way you calm a spooked colt. Let me make the formal introduction. This is your sister-in-law. Show her respect, starting with keeping your hands off. Chase's eyes went wide, ping-ponging between us. His mouth opened and closed until he managed. Grant, quit kidding. Not joking. After the civil ceremony tomorrow, I'll text you the proof. He threaded his fingers through mine. Come on, I'll drive you home. Still dazed, I let him lead me. A few steps later, I glanced back. Chase started after us, but Autumn locked both arms around his elbow, anchoring him in place. I didn't come back to earth until I was buckled into Grant's car. So we're out in the open now. No more hiding. I pressed a palm to my chest, trying to slow the drum roll. Until tonight, Grant and I had barely spoken. In my head, he was still the older boy who used to drop by to play ball with Adrian, only now wrapped in army-grade aloofness and a jawline Hollywood would kill for. I swallowed. Grant. When he didn't answer, I realized I'd whispered it. I tried again. Grant. He glanced over. Adrian told me you were willing to marry me. Heat flooded my cheeks. I just mean I don't want to marry Chase anymore, but he is too far along and I can't let Adrian lose face. So, I asked if you'd be willing. A low chuckle, rough and magnetic, slipped from his throat. Serena, we're saying the same thing. No need to rush the explanation. The sound brushed my left ear like a spark. I felt a burn. I held off announcing the engagement until my discharge paperwork cleared. Thought we had time, but Chase's antics apparently got out of hand. Did he ever make you feel cornered? No. I've stayed home the past week. Tonight was the first I'd seen him. You walked in before he could finish his speech. Good. And if he did upset you, I'll square the account later. Thanks, Grant. How did you know where to find me? I landed this evening. Figured we'd grab dinner and pick a date for the license. When you didn't pick up, I called Adrian. I checked my phone. Several missed calls from an unknown number. Grant tapped the dashboard with his chin. Save that one. It's me. Any problem, any hour, call. By the time the car eased to a stop outside the van's gates, my heart was sprinting. The second the engine cut, I blurted, "Good night, Grant," and bolted. I didn't slow until I was face down on my bed, still in my gown. My phone rang. Chase. I declined, blocked the number, opened WhatsApp, and deleted his contact. Done. Let Grant deal with the fallout. Oddly, I trusted him completely to handle it. Ding. An actual SMS. Grant, of course. Who else texts these days? Serena, are you free tomorrow morning? I have to report back to base for a week, so let's file for the license before I go. His urgency startled me, as if I were the girl he'd loved forever, and he couldn't wait to make it legal. That right there is the difference. Chase and I had been engaged for months with a set wedding date. Yet, he'd never once mentioned a civil ceremony. It isn't about love versus indifference. It's about how you treat the institution and the person standing beside you. I didn't suggest moving the conversation to WhatsApp. I answered by text. I'm free all day tomorrow. I'll pick you up at 10 o'clock. Sleep in. See you then. Good night. Before you sleep, let me be clear. Grant vows. Only death parts us, never divorce. Are you still willing? Promise and attest. I typed the reply my mother once taught me. If life grants me a worthy man, I will never let go. 9. I tossed all night and almost overslept, but the clerk's office was quiet and the paperwork took minutes. License sealed, we headed to brunch like any other brand new couple. I snapped a photo of the crimson booklet and posted it on Instagram with a single caption. Married. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Grant slide his phone across the table. Adrian says, "Only dinosaurs text?" He muttered. Downloaded the app. Add me and post that for me, would you? I looked at the screen, then at the man struggling to look unfazed. Usually, Grant lectured Adrian. Now the tables had turned, little brother morphing into big brother-in-law overnight. I grinned and hit share for him. I unlocked his phone. His iMessage list held only one lonely name, Adrian. After adding myself, I still couldn't help asking, "Do you really have to post this on Instagram?" He gave a low laugh. I was starting to notice that he laughed a lot when he was with me. Then add everyone in your phone first, and after that you may post. Fine. I was his free labor. Luckily, his contact list was short, or I'd have died of boredom. The moment I finished, I snapped a photo and started typing the caption. Write for the rest of my life. Please take care of me, Kingsley, Grant said suddenly. My face flamed. I silently deleted the just married line and typed the words he wanted. The instant I hit share, his ringtone blared. I tilted the screen toward him. It's Chase. Answer. Decline. Barely 3 seconds later, it rang again. Kingsley. My mother declined her too. All right, grandfather. Decline. No one gets through. I finally flipped the switch and silenced the phone. The calls were relentless. Then my own phone rang. Unknown number declined. After the 5th call, a text finally arrived. Serena, what do you and my brother's post even mean? You actually had a civil ceremony. You used to like me. You don't have to marry him just to spite me. Pick up. This isn't a prank. Everyone I know is blowing up my phone. I deleted it and turned to Grant, curious. Did you tell your family we were getting the license today? No. So they don't know we're getting married at all. Grandfather knew already. I informed the rest last night. I was dying to know how that conversation had gone. It looked as if every Kingsley was in shock. Grant angled his head toward me, eased the car to the curb and shifted to face me. I told them that since Chase refused the dynastic marriage, I'd take his place. I'd already cleared it with you. You don't like Chase anymore and I happen to like you. We get married, everybody wins. You like me? Since when? How come I never noticed? When we were kids, you followed Adrian everywhere and he found you annoying. Who do you think held your hand and played with you instead? Every time you refused to nap, I was the one reading you stories until you fell asleep. If I didn't like you, why would I coax you, indulge you, stay with you? Then why did you stop liking me later? He looked at me in silence, and when he finally spoke, his voice was low and rough. It wasn't that I stopped. The person I liked started liking someone else. She didn't need me anymore, so I had to let go. I was struck speechless, unsure how to respond. I only remembered clinging to him when I was small. Then he and Adrian left for college in another city, and we lost touch. After Mom died, the people around me changed, and when puppy love finally bloomed, it landed naturally on Chase. Maybe this is fate. After all the detours, we still ended up together. That night back home, messages from friends flooded in, asking if my post was real. Chase had phoned them too, begging them to stop me from doing anything rash and to arrange a face-to-face so he could apologize in person. He claimed Autumn was just a childhood regret and insisted he still loved me. But thanks to his earlier grandstanding, publicly declaring Autumn his girlfriend, none of them felt much sympathy. In our world, you can refuse a dynastic marriage outright. You don't string along your fiancé while dating someone else. You don't get to have your cake and eat it. Most of us end up in family alliances anyway. No one wants to be publicly humiliated by a future spouse. So whether they were my close friends or not, no one was about to plead his case, especially now that I was officially married, severing all ties with him on my own. I had no idea what Chase was thinking now. When I still wanted to marry him, he resisted with everything he had, even producing a long-lost first love, a white moonlight in his heart. The instant I truly gave up, he backtracked. Classic case of the unattainable always shines. Whether he and Autumn were real love or mutual convenience, I no longer cared. I wouldn't forgive the public embarrassment he'd put me through, though I wouldn't waste energy holding a grudge either. After Grant wrapped up his final army paperwork, he came home and took the helm of Kingsley. He'd been raised as the heir from childhood. He'd simply walked away back then. His father had no head for business, and Chase lacked the skill. Not only was the overseas division floundering, but Chase had also named Autumn his executive assistant with full HR authority, breeding chaos and nepotism. Kingsley had long been fed up but had no successor until Grant returned, and the old man gladly stepped aside. Grant's days were non-stop, so I handled every wedding detail. Luckily, I enjoy organizing, and most vendors had already been booked. However packed his schedule, our nightly bedtime story never lapsed. Ever since he learned I have trouble falling asleep, it became a ritual. His low, smoky ranger's voice roughened further through the phone, tinting my ears crimson after a few sentences. Yet I could never bring myself to make him stop. Drifting off naturally felt too delicious. Just as Grant and I settled into our rhythm, Chase and Autumn vanished from the gossip circuit. I never learned whether Autumn's family finally faced bankruptcy, but I was certain those two wouldn't last. What they had was teenage romance rekindled with an agenda. Chase isn't stupid. He might romanticize the past or use it to rebel against our engagement, but once the dust settles, he'll see clearly. And then there are his parents. They'll stay silent during a fling. But the moment marriage is mentioned, they'll dissect the girl's pedigree down to the last penny. I'd braced myself for obligatory run-ins with Chase after marrying Grant. Yet on our wedding day, I heard he'd flown overseas. He sent me a long text. I skimmed one line and deleted the rest. That the woman he loved was now his sister-in-law, a reality he couldn't face, so he was leaving for good. Actually, that's best for both of us. I don't regret having loved him. He once treated me sincerely, and I returned that love with everything I had. Later my affection was wasted, but that wasn't my fault. My love burns hot, whoever the recipient.